Welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast and YouTube. Very excited today to welcome Pratibha Savani. She's a poet, writer, and artist from the East Midlands, UK. Tangles Knots is her debut poetry book, published in October of 2020, which ignited her artwork to flourish once again with the illustrations of the book. It is an original collection, a book of hope and belief, written during a difficult time as a student, which affected her mental well-being. Welcome, Pratibha.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's such a pleasure to have you on here today, and congratulations on the publication of your book.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us about your story?
Yeah, I can do. Well, my name is Pratibha. I wrote Tangles and Knots last year. I published it, but the actual inside story about it is when I was going through a bad period during as a student in my at college and at uni, and I didn't know how else to deal with my emotions. I was dealing with eczema and it affected my mental health. So what I did was I basically ended up just pouring out these emotions on paper. I don't know how it happened. I think it happened also because I was reading a lot. So I started using, English as a language so much better. It did improve it so much. And then I just started writing these emotions down, and that's how my collection started being. And once I'd written it, I'd left it one side after so many years, I would look at it and reread something because it was only for me I wrote those things for, those emotions. But, I always knew when I read it again that I wanted to publish it, even back when it was 2005, because I wrote it in the period 1999 and 2002, and then I my writing died out when I started doing things as things changed in my life. This is my book, Tangles and Knots, and I'm so happy that I've got it finally published. And it was a busy year last year. I think if, COVID or no COVID, my book was coming out last year because it was ready. I had all the poems written up. I started writing them down, typing them up in 2017 in digital format. So I knew I had that ready to go. But obviously I hadn't finished everything in that sense until after I had I had a child. I have a toddler now. So I got really busy being a mom, but I had that in the back of my head where I'd kept it. And I knew that it was ready for me to just restructure some of the introduction, add some paragraphs, and kind of make my structure for my book. I knew it was ready. So COVID or no COVID, it was coming out last year, and I'm so pleased it did.
Yes, it's a very lovely book. I have read it in its entirety, and I'm really also impressed with the artwork that's in the book. Can you tell me about your artwork and how you
Yeah,
decided to go
sure.
that route?
So I'm an artist first. I've always been into drawing at school and college. So that was one of the outlets I had for my escape world, really. And then it came reading, and then obviously came the writing after. So what happened is I did the cover for the book, and the back, I designed how I wanted it. Now, initially, it wasn't a plan to have any illustrations in the book. It kind of just happened pure in the process of making my book. And what happened is I wanted the cover to reflect what I wanted to convey regarding Tangles and Knots. So I just told the publisher that let me try and draw something because, I couldn't find images that would be suitable. So I tried drawing something, and the first thing I drew was the tree after so many attempts. You have to remember that I hadn't actually drawn for such a long time, so I had to get back into drawing, and Pinterest was great for ideas. And then I developed the tree after so many attempts. I got it right roughly, and then I decided to use those branches to make the kind of tree like a rope, because it's like and with like tangles in it, so it kind of represented that. But at the ends of the branch has also got the flowers and the leaves. That's basically the section where you improve and you change and you grow. So it kind of has a tree of life kind of meaning to it, yeah. So anyway, it was so symbolic to have something like a tree. And then I decided to put them into the book because the publisher had asked me about did I want to put any images in, and I thought about it and I thought yes, simply because actually at the time I had thought about mindfulness was something, a big key thing in my area, and I just wanted to make sure that I put that across in my writing. But then when I came to my book, having black and white images as mindfulness art was perfect, so I ended up putting them in, and it was the best thing that I've done, really. So I've got one there, and my favorite is the infinity sign. My favorite is the infinity sign, so I drew that last and I have to put it in my book. So it's just black and white. Thank you. Thank you. It's black and white, and I kept it black and white, so if I wanted to color it in I could, because something like that I would like to develop a bit more with my art and writing included. So yeah, I've got future projects that I want to do as well, but yeah, that's mainly about the art.
So would you call your art like a meditative art, that while you're doing your artwork that you are meditating or focusing on something or working through some things?
Well, it's a form of expression, just like writing is. And I've learned from being on an online publishing poetry site that, there are other people who write and also can draw. I didn't realize it was multi skills that people have who are actually writers and who are artists, but apparently there is. I'm not the only one. So I found that out last year when I went on Cosmofunnel, and I'm on that site for online poetry, and that's the first time I published my poetry. So last year was basically my year of not only getting my book out, but also the year that I published online. I've never had my work out there since last year. I didn't even think of me as a poet before that. I wrote, but I never thought of me as that. And then I didn't know if I could write again, because I hadn't written properly for so long. I mean, I wrote stuff, but nothing enough that I was regularly writing like on a topic and like was kind of poetry related. And my work is not rhyme, it's more prose. So I started writing and I put some online, got some comments. It gave me the confident boost to think, okay, you know what, I can write still. And oh my God, I'm a poet. I didn't think about that. And
yes,
and last year was and last year was the first year I decided to I need to change. I need to do some more reading on poetry. I've learned so much online, and I need to now look at famous poets. And I decided to make that thing, to read more on about different people's poetry, because it's quite interesting to read other people's work. I like that as well.
Mm-hmm. I think it does help us develop better as poets when we can look at how other people write. And as even reading other forms like, fiction, nonfiction, works, short stories, can often stir up an idea for a poem, and maybe look at different kinds of styles of poetry. And it doesn't have to rhyme. It can be very prosy. The point is to be able to express things in such a way that other people can relate, or that it can causes growth. Sometimes I write a poem just because I'm sorting out something that's going on. And with your book, with Tangles and Knots, I found it very relatable, because even if it's not like the eczema that you're going through, there are things that people go through having to do with their body, their thinking of their body image, and comparing it to other people, and we can't help it sometimes. We just do that. And the fact is, there's so many of us that are struggling with this, that, and to have something like this to read and relate to. I found it very personal, and I really like that you took that step forward to present your poetry in this book. I think a lot of people will benefit from reading this. So bravo,
Thank
great
you.
job. It took a lot of courage for you to come out with this book.
Thank you, Lisa. It was a bit scary because I wasn't sure how people would react or what people would say when my book came out and read all the stuff I'd written, because I knew what I'd wrote. And it was a bit nerve-wracking because it was me out there in the world. I'm literally, my words were out there, and but what I did get is lots of feedback. People did say that they could relate to it in different ways. I mean, mental health is a big issue. I mean, I didn't know about it back then. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know I was going through it. And writing was the only way I could deal with it in some ways, to express. And even then, it's just one outlet. There are other
Right.
ways that people can express themselves, like through art, or music even. But we deal with our personal difficulties in different ways, and writing is a very therapeutic way as well as art. And I think I love them both, and I'm so happy that I was able to create my book with both of the things that I love to do in one book, because I'm a very creative person. I realized that that I like playing around with words when I do my mindfulness art quotes. Now that I have an Instagram page called Pratibha Poetry Art, so I like to play around with text and images if I can as well. But it's so much fun to be creative, and even with my writing, I'm always thinking of different ways to try different things. I've done the acoustic, I can't even say it properly, poems where you have the letters on the side spelling out a word, and then you write a sentence for each letter. I've done that a few times because it's fun. I've done short poems because I prefer short poems than long ones. I don't really, me personally, I don't like reading really long poems because you can really put you off if it doesn't grab you straight away. And sometimes people just need a small thing to read to uplift them or to kind of connect with. And I think shorter poems do that simply because they are simple and effective. And I always like the simple and effectiveness of the simplicity in smaller words or less words, as you could say.
Right.
So so I really think creativity is a big element with come to writing.
Yes. Now, would you please share with us some of your beautiful words?
Sure. I could read one of the poems out. Um, right, so this is Mirror, Mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. I see you looking at me, and I do not like it at all. Mirror, mirror on the wall. You are an illusion. I hate you all. Don't reflect on me, because that reflection is not as real as me. So that's Mirror, Mirror. Would you like me
Yes,
to
I
read
like that.
another one straight away, or do you want me to?
Sure. Sure, go ahead.
I'll read Hope, my next one. So Mirror, Mirror is basically me going through a bad phase, and Hope is all about that silver lining that we look for to keep you going from strength to strength. Hope. The strength to go on, to face my troubled mind, to face my delicate skin, to reach deep inside and pull out my soul. So to slap me across the face, the realization to wake up now and see what you're doing, the strength to fight back and change the future forever, reclaim your life and bring together new hope.
It's a very powerful poem. I mean, and it is hopeful, so we can move
I
forward.
got I got a few comments about that one. A lot of people liked it. It was really nice to hear which poems people liked when they reviewed my book or made
Oh,
comments. So that was a good one. Yeah, there's a
okay.
few.
Well, yeah, they're
Yeah,
all good ones, in my opinion. But I
thank
do
you.
like that hope, the idea of hope.
Yeah,
Sometimes when
which is
people
a
are
running
feeling,
theme in my book.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you have, I'm going to show on the screen also where a person could get your book. Of course, um, we have, I saw actually, go back on Instagram where you have a special on your book. Let me go back to that page. There we
Yes,
go.
I do. Yes.
And what tell us about that?
Yeah, just for this week, because of World Poetry Day coming up on Sunday, I wanted to promote my book because I haven't really done much. And I thought, well, I can tie it in with what better day to celebrate than World Poetry Day. So my ebooks are now 99p across Kindle, Kobo, and Google Play. And I just wanted to share that with people. So if people wanted to read my words, it's there to download.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and actually, you're going to be on the panel or poets on World Poetry Day for the podcast and YouTube channel on Sunday. That's at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and people can come and be in the audience. And I'm hoping that we get a great turnout for that. Real
Yeah,
excited
I'm
about it.
really looking forward to being in a sort of, you could say, like an open mic session with a lot of the
Yeah,
poets as well, and with you. So that'll be kind of fun. I've never done that before with
yeah.
lots of people.
I think there's going to be 8 or 9 people there to read. This is the site of Green Cat Books, and that's who you work with. That's who published your book. So you can see, and so a
Yeah.
person can go on there to purchase your book, as well as
Uh,
they can go to Amazon, Waterstones, Kindle, Kobo, and Google Play to get your book. So how about that? So you have a lot of different ways. This is a UK site for Amazon. It's available on UK and the American site, and I'm sure on some others as well. So bravo, wonderful. Let's hear another bit of poem.
yeah, sure. I talked about the escape world, so I had written quite a few bits in that. So this is the section called Unreality, and the poem is called Unreality. Everything always seems like a dream. Nothing seems real to me. My vivid imagination tells me it is unreal, but I won't listen to me, 'cause unreal always seems so real to me. I venture into a world of new possibilities. I break all the rules, which always appeals to me. In my world, I'm not me. I'm a new version of myself, sees me differently, finding people who click and relate to me. Bounce back in the real world. I take all my dreams with me to conquer those desires that keep appealing to me, jumping in the middle as I am somewhere in between of my dream world and reality.
Wonderful. Now I do know also that you are a proofreader and editor, and that you did the proofreading and editing for Two Hearts by Sarfraz Ahmed and Annette Tarpley. That's quite a book as
Um,
well.
yes, yes, I did. I basically had, I think there was about 130 poems. So Safraz is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for like over 10 years now. And he asked me if I would proofread all the poems so that could kickstart them getting their book done. So I began doing that, and I did it in about a week, bearing in mind that I have a toddler and I work part-time. Um, yeah, I did it. I proofread the poems. I basically edited what I needed. I made some suggestions if there was anything to add or they needed to look at if something didn't feel right. And basically, it was my first project that I'd ever done that was a big project like that to proofread. I've never proofread anyone's book before, so that was a new thing for me this year, or maybe last year. Yeah, last year, end of last year. Yeah.
And you co-wrote a poem with Sarfraz too called Open Heart. So
I did, yeah. Me and Safraz, because we both poets, we basically found out that we were poets before lockdown happened last March in the UK. It was really bizarre. He told me he was getting his poetry book done. And I thought, oh wow. And that got me thinking. I thought, well, I've got my book, I just need to do it in a poetry book, because I just need to restructure it. And that's how we ended up learning that we both did write poetry. He knew I wrote, but I never said the word poetry. Like I said, I didn't think I was a poet. And then he trusted me to proofread it, and that's how we did it. And we wanted to do a collaboration because we've never worked together on a poem before, so we did, and that went in the book, and I'm really happy about that.
Now, what plans do you have for your future publication?
Well, I would love to do another poetry book in time. I'm just writing more, but in the meantime, what I am doing is doing a lot of those quotes on my Instagram page, Pratibha Poetry Art, and I'd really like to do a little mindfulness book out there. I think they'll be really, really interesting and really like little cool little
Yes.
pictures that people can just read through, because they're really short and sharp and snazzy to get through the day. And I'd like to do 2 other projects I've got ideas on as well. It's 2 different children's books. I've written 2 poems last year, and one's called Shh, and I think it'd be great for kids because they'd be going shh. And I've got to think of a narrative. About that. It's all about having a secret, basically. And I've got to think of a narrative for the book, the actual images. So it's still a long way to getting developed, because I really need the illustrations to be right for the book. So children's book is a new thing that I would want to do.
Well, that's exciting. We have lots of wonderful things coming up. Well, Pratibha, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We very much appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Yes, me too.
Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me.